or the kind of metrics I use is A, how are you feeling? Are you feeling strong? How
Okay.
is your energy level? Do you feel energized? How are you sleeping? Are you getting good sleep? How are you
Okay.
moving? Are you moving pain free?
Oh,
If all
yeah.
these boxes are ticked, then they're on the right trajectory. And
Yeah.
when they want to sort of, let's say, attribute their success in terms of numbers, let's say they're the number on the scale, then I would say that's a losing battle because these numbers are very arbitrary.
Welcome back to the Actor podcast. I am Praneeth, and thank you for tuning in. For today's episode, our guest is Mustafa Jamshed. He's a strength and conditioning coach based out of Pakistan. He's the owner and head coach of Impulse. He's also the co-founder of Virtualetics. Impulse is one of the top gyms in Karachi, Pakistan right now. Mustafa is very ambitious and super authentic when it comes to his training programs. Let's find out what made him start Impulse and what it takes to be one of the best coaches out there. Hey Mustafa, thank you so much for taking time and coming on to my show as a guest.
Hey, no, not an issue at all. Thank you for having me. I feel honored.
It's my pleasure. So, can you tell us about your journey? How you got into this profession and why did you choose this as your full-time job?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people have asked me about my journey, trying to see how it started and if there was some sort of big inspiration behind it. And I'm someone who just cuts the bullshit and just says the truth. And the truth is
Okay.
actually, I didn't have any aspirations when I was growing
Mhm.
up to
Okay.
be a coach. Training and working out wasn't really a big part of my lifestyle. I mean, I think I loved being active. I loved playing sports. I was the sort of a kid who would just go outside, play, you know, any kind of sport I could just wrap my head around, whether it be football, cricket, basketball, whatever. So,
Okay.
movement, I would say, was a big part of my life. But in terms of the actual, the profession of wanting to be a coach or even lifting wasn't really in my plans.
Okay.
I guess it all changed in college for vanity
Mhm.
reasons.
Okay.
You want to look the part, you want to,
Yeah.
just try to get some attention from girls. So that just made me more motivated to like go to the gym randomly, without any direction or plan. I
Okay.
just went to the gym and just started just doing, like a bro split. I Googled some
Right.
workout programs, and it was like a strict chest, back, arm day, leg day, shoulder day. And I had no idea what I was doing. There wasn't any sort of like direction or like any sort of like, let's say, help from others. I was just like, I'm just going to go at it one day at a time and
Okay.
then see how it goes. And then honestly, I guess the inspirational part comes in the middle when I went in knowing not what to do or not what or knowing the fact that I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I just wanted to get some sort of a stimulus. And I think once that started, I just got hooked. I think that's when I
Right.
realized within the first couple of days that, okay, I'm enjoying this, even though it didn't look pretty. It didn't look, the technique was all over the place. I, I was sore for days, but I just enjoyed the, I guess, the uncomfortableness that
Okay.
comes with it, being in an environment which made me feel uncomfortable. It was an alien environment. It was outside my comfort zone. It made me humble. And I
Okay.
think that really played into my head that, in order for me to achieve something, I need to be put in situations which sort of, let's say, make me want to work harder. And that sort of just kind of like, I don't know, I just got hooked on to that
Mhm.
feeling.
Right.
So that was my first I would say, history with training myself. And then
Okay.
obviously, as the years went by, this is about 12, 13 years ago, I got more into it. I then started self educating myself in terms of, okay, what actually needs to be done in terms of not just what goes on in the gym, but also in terms of, the big factors that play outside in terms of nutrition,
Okay.
sleep, recovery, all that stuff. And then obviously, as the years go by, you start seeing your body change. You get more inspired, more
Right.
motivated, and then yeah. So that was my own history when it comes to training. When it came to me wanting to actually pick this up as a profession, that didn't
Okay.
happen like for another few years. I would say back in 2015, so almost about 10 years ago. I would get random, requests from people in the gym who would see me train and just ask me
Okay.
questions, wanting to, get some sort of help in terms of, how long I've been doing this, how did I achieve a certain level of aesthetic, muscle, or strength. And I would just help them without even thinking about whether or not, I should charge them. I was just like, I'm just going to help people
Yeah.
out. you know I think that just kind of like created this some sort of a ripple effect where people started just coming up to me and then wanting to train with me, and then I would say, yeah, sure, jump on this session with me, and we would do the same things, and it was fun. I didn't think
Right.
about anything like that. Then obviously, as this started happening more and more, I started to like flirt with the idea of, what if
Right.
I just start making this as my part-time thing? Because
Okay.
I was in the corporate world, right? I was a
Yeah.
mark.
You were in the marketing field, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was in the marketing field. I was
Yeah.
doing the 9 to 5, and
Yeah.
so while I was doing that, I just thought about, maybe making this a side hustle,
Okay.
and then thought about it for a few months, and finally landed on the concept of my impulse,
Right.
my impulse child, which basically is my, I would say, application and my sort of like revolution of fitness, which I believe in and wanting others to even be exposed to. So yeah, that
Right.
was my history in terms of me training and wanting to make this a profession.
That's so awesome. So, how did this inception start Impulse? Well,
Uh-huh.
coming in from a background where you were, I mean, you had the responsibility to extend your family business, but you were like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pursue my
Yeah.
passion. So,
Yeah.
how hard was it to fight against your dad and your family and start this? And how did you make this dream become a reality?
All right, so there were like actually two, three factors that had to come into play, like you said. First, I do have a family business. My dad is a designer,
Okay.
one of the pioneers of the fashion industry in Pakistan for the last
Oh,
more than
that's nice.
yeah, almost 4 decades. So that was one aspect. So not wanting to even wait, sorry, hold on, my cat wants to.
Okay, okay, no
Oh,
problem.
no, sorry. Yes, yes. So that sort of pressure was already there
Yeah.
before I even thought about wanting to start fitness. I mean, forget fitness. I came back from college, and the path was to join my dad's company. That's what my dad wanted.
Okay.
And from the get go, I didn't want that. Like I said
Yeah.
before, when I started training, it was the
Okay.
uncomfortableness that actually made me work harder. So when I
Right.
came back from Canada, me wanting to
Right.
work for my father, not that I'm saying it's going to be a walk in the park, but I knew
Right.
being the boss's son, it's not going to pave that sort of like hard work kind of
Right.
modality, that sort of like, let's say, mindset.
Right.
I wanted to challenge myself. So I said, you know what? I just want to start fresh. I
Okay.
love business. I studied business. So I randomly just went on to work at this advertising agency and barely making any money. But, it was a
Yeah.
situation where I'm like, okay, I'm working for someone else. I'm
Yeah.
expected to have deliverables. I'm going to be putting in the hard work. That then moved on for me to get into marketing at this company. And I was then within a year, by the grace of God, I became the head of marketing for that company, and it was
Okay.
amazing. So that sort of just drove me even harder. Um, Obviously the pressure was there. My dad, not,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say didn't support it, but obviously had his own opinion because he did want me to join the business. So when I
Right.
first said that I wanted to join an advertising agency, he kind of like flipped out on me, and he said, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
like, I have this company, and why are
Right.
you doing that? So I explained it to him, and he said, "Okay, fine." So he appreciated my the thought process I had, because he started a company from nothing, and I said, "Listen, I want to make something out of myself."
Okay.
But then fast forward another couple of years, when I wanted to make fitness my side hustle, I wasn't even thinking about making it my main source of income. So at that point, I wanted
Okay.
to do my 9 to 5. And then in the evening till nighttime, I would do my fitness training. So when I told
Okay.
him that, he again flipped a switch. He's like, okay, wait, I don't
Okay.
understand. So now, not only do you not want to join me, you
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
working for another company, and now you want to do your own thing. And what
Okay.
is this training thing? What is working
Right.
out? Because he's from that generation where training and working out and being a coach
Right.
wasn't really a big profession. It wasn't sort of something
Exactly.
that people could actually thrive off, make a living out of, support their family. But times have changed, right? So I
Exactly. Yeah.
actually, he didn't like that idea at all. But then within a couple of
Right.
years, the sort of reaction I got from people, the support I got from people, how I was slowly building it to a
Right.
point where I quit my job and dove into it full on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he then started to see the potential of it. So I
Okay.
guess the answer to your
Yeah.
question was, I think the turning point was the actual result that he was seeing, rather
Right.
than me explaining it to him.
Exactly.
The rest of my family, my mother, my siblings, they all were supportive. They
Okay.
knew that, okay, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to put in the hours, and I'm not taking it this
Exactly.
lightheartedly.
Yeah.
And I would never ever leave a comfortable, good paying job unless I know this is something that is my calling. And that's what I
Exactly.
did.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So how do you make Impulse to stand out against the competitors? An example, like, there's so many gyms out
Yeah.
there. There's
Yeah.
so many other fitness centers out there. So
Yeah.
how did you turn Impulse to be one of the best out there in Pakistan right now?
I mean, I don't know if it's one of the best in Pakistan. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it when I first started. My first reaction
Okay.
was, okay, I just need to start, right? So
Okay.
I think a lot of times when we think of an idea, we get obsessed
Okay.
with the thought, and we don't
Right.
really get obsessed with the action or the execution part of it, right? So there
Correct.
needs to be some sort of urgency in actually executing it. So had I spent too much time thinking about the competition and thinking about, okay, there's so many gyms, there's so many classes, I'm going to set my classes to be differently, because there were
Right.
discussions from my friends. They're like, dude, like there's so many other things happening. Why do you
Yeah.
want to start it? The market is saturated. Like,
Yeah.
um, I didn't dwell too much into that. My main
Right.
thing was, I just need to start and
Okay.
let's see where it goes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think what really worked for me initially was, I started. I set up my company. I set up the classes, the schedule, the location. At first the location was at the background of this school called Lecole, who was owned
Oh,
by my
okay.
friend, Ahmed Tariq. Shout out to him. I mean, I appreciate his
Okay.
support. And he said that, okay, you can just use my backyard and you can conduct your classes. I didn't have a facility or anything like that.
Okay.
So then, once that started, obviously with some sort of, let's say, and Instagram was booming back then. Everyone was
Okay.
on it. It was a new app, relatively new app,
Right.
for
Yes.
Pakistan.
Yes. Yes.
And I just started posting about it, that, hey, I'm doing classes. And also, like I said before, that the fact that I sort of somewhat had a reputation, because people would come up to me in the gym and ask me, and that sort
Okay.
of like created this word of mouth. So I just started, right? And then
Okay.
with
Okay.
time, I think, I don't know if it sets it apart, but I truly believe in being authentic. And as
Right.
time went by, my authentic self came into play, and people understood that, okay, this is someone who truly believes in not himself, but not just himself, I would say, but
Okay.
actually in fitness and the benefit that fitness has in one's life. I was
Okay.
promoting it as a more generalized statement. I was like, you guys need this. Okay. So I was creating a
Exactly. Yeah.
demand. Now, once you create that demand and you kind of like shove it down someone's throat, obviously,
Correct. Yeah.
it creates that sort of, let's say, I think it created this sort of curiosity, and also I supplied what they needed. I created this environment for them.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. There were times where it was inconsistently consistent, where I would get 5 to 8 clients a month, then another month I would get 20 clients, and then another month I would
Okay.
get 5 clients. So I knew that business, that it's going to go through its ups and downs. Like I knew that.
Okay. Okay.
But then obviously as time went by, I stuck with it. I got more support from other people, which we can get into later. But just consistency, the
Okay.
act of urgency, and sort of just believing in the product and being able to sort of navigate that demand you're creating into a supply, and a consistent supply of it, because you can't have one without the other. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then obviously training and my own sort of training aspect came into play, where I would post videos talking about fitness, making people aware that I am someone who knows the science behind it, cutting the bullshit, like I said, not adopting gimmicks
Right.
and not making this a short-term thing rather than a long-term thing. That also set me apart, because there were a lot of gimmicks in the
Right.
field where they were promising results in 4 weeks and then that's it. My
Yeah.
thing was, okay, in 4 weeks you can achieve a certain level of fitness, but then you have the rest of your life. So creating those long-term sustainable goals and being able to achieve it, that also played well into my part. It made me, I think, more relatable to the average Joe. So yeah, I mean, and also I thrive off competition. I love competition. I think
Right.
it's a good thing for fitness, for the fitness industry as a whole. We have more people getting into it, and it's just it booms, right? The market's booming right now. I love it,
Exactly.
so I don't have an issue with competition like that at all.
Exactly. And I feel the more the competition, it's like the more you're gonna stand out, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like unless you have a stronger opponent, you
yeah.
can't outshine. You're
Yeah.
not going to stand out.
Yeah, it's also
So
like kind of the concept of, let's say, if you're training by yourself, you're
yeah,
the strongest person if you're alone. But
yeah,
if you're with people who are like-minded
exactly,
people who are at your level or even better than you, that's just going to raise your game. You're going to thrive off that energy also. It's going to motivate you, it's going to inspire you. So when I see people around me working hard, I love it because it
right,
makes me want to work harder as well. Not that I'm only focusing on what they're doing, but it just gives me some sort of like a value. It makes me feel like, okay, what I'm doing is going to help people as well, but at the same time I'm
right,
going to make a business out of it and I'm going to thrive in it.
exactly. Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So coming to the training aspect, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's talk a little bit more about why is muscle building so fucking hard. It's easier to lose fat when compared with building muscles. It takes years and years to build good quality muscles, right? Does it also depend and vary from person to person?
I mean, I think also it's like you said,
Yeah.
it's individualized, right? Like a lot of
Okay.
people, I mean, obviously there is some sort of like a blueprint we all can follow.
Okay.
But when it comes to actual muscle building, I think where people, don't want to say fail, but actually what they
Okay.
lack is patience. It's a
Okay.
hard process. I look at muscle building as art. It's creating
Right.
a beautiful building. It's making
Okay.
a bridge. It takes time. It
Okay.
takes a lot of fucking time. And I think what
Okay.
people lack is
Right.
patience. They think
Exactly.
that building muscle is something that they can do within a few short weeks or months, when actually it takes years
Yeah.
and years of dedicated training,
Okay.
not getting distracted, sticking to
Right.
your path, putting on blinders, and not focusing on anything else. There's so many different aspects to this, because I know
Yeah.
people who are following a structured program for months and they're making small progress, but they
Okay.
don't look at it as if they're making small progress, but actually they look at it as if time wasted because they're not making those big gains, and then they jump on from program to program. They don't stick to one sort of modality, one sort of, like,
Exactly.
let's say, method. um,
Okay.
I have this, there's a saying, and I love this saying. It says,
Okay.
there are many concepts, but applications are very few and very seldom. So
Right.
what that basically means is you can Google a strength program, with
Okay.
Chat GPT and all these other avenues we
Exactly.
have. You can Google any program, you can Google any diet, so there are many concepts to this. But where people fail is adapting or adopting those methods.
Okay.
Either they adopt it for too short of a time, or they adopt too many in a short period of time.
Okay.
you
Okay.
know so the science behind muscle building is not complicated. It's easy, but it's hard to execute because we lack that sort of, let's say, patience. When it comes to fat loss, it's
Okay.
just, okay, I want to lose some fat. What's the quickest way for me to lose fat? Oh, I got to eat less, move less, done. You know,
Okay.
a lot of people are okay with that because it's a very easy concept. They don't need to like worry about training or sort of like executing certain lifts or getting that stimulus. Fat loss is just basically eating less, right?
Okay. Yeah.
With muscle building, it's a lot more technical, yes,
Okay.
but also it's a lot more. It's slow building. It's a slow building process,
Okay.
and I truly believe that's where people fail. When they look at me and they ask me
Right.
and they say, how long did it take it?
Right.
How long? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. So when
Yeah.
I say it took me
Yeah.
years, they get
Right.
so demotivated. They either think I'm
Right.
lying, or I don't
Right.
want to help them, or I'm
Right.
just like I'm some sort of like a weird case where it took me years. Like, why did it take you years? It should take only a
Okay.
few weeks and months. And I'm like, but that
Right.
actually isn't the case. If you look at anyone who's done any sort of substantial muscle building,
Yeah.
unless they're on steroids, but even then it takes time. But let's say a natural guy, it
Okay.
takes years. Yes, you can see a lot of differences, especially newbie
Okay.
gains, quote unquote, within a few months.
Okay.
But then obviously once you start training, the progression is very linear. It's an upward curve
Exactly.
because you get all the stimulus, your muscle fibers are like burning up, your glycogen is up,
Right.
you're prioritizing on protein. So you also have the protein synthesis happening. But then after a few months or years or whatever your genetics are, you will hit a plateau, and then
Yes.
progression will not be linear. It'll be very slow. But
Okay.
that's
Okay.
where
Okay.
actually people need to understand that, that's where the long term aspect comes into play. That's where people need to understand the sustainability aspect of training and muscle building, that it takes
Okay.
time. And once you hit your genetic, let's say, limit,
Okay.
then it becomes even more of a mind fuck because you're like, I'm not making
Right.
any gains. I'm not building
Right.
muscle. But we are humans at the end of the day. We all have a genetic
Exactly.
limit, unless, like I said, you're on performance enhancing drugs. But
Right.
then that's where people need to understand that, okay, we all have a limit. We all are humans. We all aren't robots. We're not generated by
Right.
computer software. Um, so yeah, I think the problem is patience. The problem is
Exactly.
people aren't committed to something unless they see the result. They don't really focus on the journey, and they don't
Correct.
really focus on the most underrated, in my opinion, the most underrated mindset, which is delayed gratification, where you're not worried or focused on the goal. You are concentrating on the journey. The destination will always be a disappointment if you're only focusing on that. The journey is
Exactly.
where, actual success happens.
That's so true. So, how do you measure and track your clients' progress to ensure that they're on the right path? The one we just spoke about, muscle building is so hard, and
Mm.
we just discussed that there's a few clients might get disheartened, saying
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I don't see any progress. I don't see any progress."
Yeah. The main thing is we are our own biggest critic, right?
Right.
If I take a client and we're following a program, and let's say it's a few months in the program, and they're making small changes, but not the
Okay.
changes that they want to see,
Okay.
then, my main criteria or the kind of metrics I use is, how are you feeling? Are you feeling strong? How is
Okay.
your energy level? Do you feel energized? How are you sleeping? Are you getting good sleep? How are you
Okay.
moving? Are you moving pain free?
Oh,
If all
yeah.
these boxes are ticked, then they're on the right trajectory.
Exactly.
And when
Yeah.
they want to sort of, let's say, attribute their success in terms of numbers, let's say the number on the scale, then I would say that's a losing battle because these numbers are very arbitrary.
Right.
Okay. The questions that I'd asked right now to the client is actually where we need them to focus on. Because if
Right.
they have answered yes to all those questions, then they're on the right path. Their health will improve. And once that's happening, the numbers that they're focused on will also change. Their level of, I would say, aesthetics will also change. Their, I would say, strength will also change. Their numbers in the gym will also change. So
Right.
tracking that is more in terms of how is the quality of their life improving. That's where I'm more focused on. Once that's happening, then everything falls into place. In my experience, the clients that I've seen the biggest physical change, let's say we are talking about physical change, we're tracking actually their performance in the
Okay.
gym and how they're looking. That sort of success has always been attributed to the fact that they don't focus on the numbers and they're focusing on every day dialing in, being consistent.
Right.
I had a client who just lost over 10 kgs, right? 10
Wow.
kgs
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
about, but no, so the wow aspect, when I tell people 10 kgs, they say, wow, but then I say it took her 10 months, and they all go like, what the fuck? That's so slow. That is so slow. Like, what the fuck? But then I tell this client not to get disheartened by people who say this because she actually gets the same reaction from other people. They go like, "Oh wow, you've lost 10 kgs. How long did it take? Did it take you like 4 weeks?" She goes, "No, it took me 10 months." But what they don't see is that that client went through a strength phase. She went through a phase where she took the long term aspect of it, the long term approach of it. And not only did she lose 10 kgs, she held on to her muscle. She's looking so much better. Her clothes are fitting better. She's stronger. And also, she has a better relationship with food because she played the long game. She did not starve herself. We didn't put her on a big calorie deficit. We took it very slowly. And now she'll be able to not only maintain her weight in the long run, but also possibly lose even more if she wants to. You know, that's the thing. So I think, again, the answer to your question is
Yeah.
how do I track people's progress? I
Right.
track it through these questions. If their quality of life is improving, everything else falls into place. And I think a
That's
lot
so
of people,
awesome.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people need to focus on that. And they're just again obsessed with numbers, obsessed with
Yeah.
results. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't get it. It's just that when a client says that to me and I say, okay, but
Yeah.
what about the business you're actually running? Did you wake up
Yeah.
thinking that you're gonna make this company that you started into a success? They
Yeah.
always say no. They always say it went through a
Yeah.
dark period, then it went through a period where they were just above water, then they went through a period where they started to rise above the tide. I'm like, did it take time? They said yes. I was like, how long
Okay.
did it take? They said it took probably like years.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is it that when it comes to your fitness, you don't have that
Yeah.
same sort of mindset? Why is it that you
Yeah.
always want the easy way out? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's what they don't understand. And that's what I'm trying to
Exactly.
change. That's the sort of mindset that I want people to adopt.
Exactly. I think this is so important, right? Because most of the time, if someone's trying to lose fat, they're always like, "Oh, what's my weight? Oh, how are my clothes fitting?"
Yeah.
And if someone's trying to build muscle, they're constantly measuring their all like
Strength
body
also.
parts. And,
Yeah,
yeah, and they don't see any change, and then they get so disheartened. But they're
exactly.
not taking the fact, like you just mentioned now, sleep, mindset.
They're not
Um,
focusing on the daily tasks. They're focusing
exactly.
on
Yeah.
what these tasks will actually end up in. But
Exactly.
that result will never come if they don't focus on the constant grind, I would say, right? I hate
Exactly.
the word grind, but I still use it over here.
Right.
But they aren't
Yeah.
used to that. They'll
Exactly.
apply
Yeah.
to everything else, to their
Mhm.
work, their family, their social life, or whatever,
Yeah.
their relationships, which is a good thing, right? But
Exactly. Yeah.
they're so hard on themselves when it comes to fitness that they think of it as a disappointment.
Exactly.
And I think social media has a lot to do with this because they're always comparing. Comparison is a thief of
Okay.
joy. It
Exactly.
always will be that. If you're always comparing your journey with someone else, you will always feel like you haven't accomplished enough, or maybe you
Exactly.
haven't accomplished anything at all. The only person you need to compare yourself to is the person
Yeah.
you're staring at the mirror.
No,
That's the only
exactly.
person. Where
Yeah.
were you 4 years ago? Where were you 3 years ago? If 4 years ago you had a thriving business, but you were on the couch, barely getting any movement in,
Right.
and now 3, 4, and then 4 years later, you were walking for, let's say, 10 minutes a day. That's success. You know,
Exactly.
again, because I'm comparing this version of this person 4 years ago who wasn't moving at all to a person who's now
Exactly.
moving 10 minutes a day. That's 10 minutes a day you weren't doing. That's success. But they don't see it like that, right? Which is why, like us coaches, we need to also act as a guide. It's all so mental. Like, yeah, I'm so obsessed with the mental aspect of training that, yes,
Right.
obviously I love the physical aspect of it, making programs and pushing our clients and everything. But now, the past, I would say, year and a half, I'm obsessed with the mental aspect of it. You know, the physiology of it, all the stuff that plays into your head. Because if your mind isn't right, or if your mind isn't in its
True.
right place, the body is not going to follow. It's going to give away. You know,
100%. Yeah.
I don't know if you know about David Goggins, but like he always talks about this aspect of tapping into your inner bitch. you
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes.
he's like your inner
He's
bitch.
one of the biggest motivators on this planet.
Exactly, right? This guy, he
Yeah.
runs 20 miles a day, and he says,
Yeah.
every time I run the first mile, my body wants to quit.
Exactly.
Your body will always feel more tired no matter what. That's where your
Exactly.
mind your mind is the biggest asset you have. You tap into that mental aspect of the game and be like, okay, no,
Right.
what am I doing this for? I'm doing this for myself, for my fitness, for my longevity, so I can live longer and support my life and support the people around me. So me being a coach, not that I'm saying and not that I'm replacing an actual, let's say, a therapist or someone who's
Sure.
actually studied in this field, but sort of guiding them in line with fitness. I'm obsessed with that.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
just so like interested in this field, and that's where a lot of my successes also happen. And a lot of my clients, whoever has been coached by me, they know how much I talk about this sort of mindset and and
Exactly.
and tapping into it. And obviously, you will get negative thoughts.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
normal. But you're also the architect of your emotion. You are in control. We will
Exactly.
never ever expect every day to be stress free. There will be stresses, we will get bad news, but we can control our reaction to it. That is something that we need to improve on. And it's a long process, and not every day is going to be perfect. But if slowly we can just change our reaction to certain bad news or negativity or the daily stress that life brings, it's
Right.
just going to make us better. It's going to make
Exactly.
us a better person, a better provider, and that's where it all is, man.
Exactly. And you're also like a huge preacher of mindset, right?
Yes.
You also
Yes.
truly believe that a healthy mind is equally important as much as having a healthy physical body.
Yes, 100%. You can't have one without the other, which is why, like,
Yeah.
I think when a person comes up to me, so I also do remote coaching, right? So I do online
Right.
coaching. Whenever I get an online client, I
Right.
ask them, that's where actually the mental aspect comes into play, because I'm not physically
Right.
there coaching them. I
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
ask them a question: why are you training? What is
Right.
the reason you're training for?
Right.
And if they're giving me an answer which is something that I don't really agree with, let's say this
Okay.
person says, oh, I'm trying to get fit, I have a wedding in 4 weeks. I say, okay, that's a good short term goal, but what are your long term goals? Why do you
Right.
want to get into fitness? And
Right.
when I see that they're a little lost, that makes me feel even more inspired and motivated to take them on, because I'm like, I can change their mindset, change their way of thinking, because I have changed my way of thinking. I think I tapped into this sort of approach is because I didn't have that sort of guidance. All
Right.
I thought was, when it comes to training, is just training, sleeping, eating, that's it.
Right.
I didn't understand the long term aspects of it. And it's only through, sort of like having my own journey and going through it and diving deep into my self-worth is where I
Okay.
started to, and obviously talking to like-minded people who have helped me, I started to realize the biggest asset I wasn't utilizing in terms of my fitness was my mind. was
Right.
my mindset, was the way my thoughts brewed, my thought process happened. And a lot of people are also lost in that aspect, because over here, all
True.
the trainers and coaches they just talk about, okay, you need to lose fat, you need to build muscle. Yes, you need to
Right.
lose muscle
Yeah.
and build fat, but are you actually tapping into that person's specific schedule? Do you understand the kind of trauma that person's been through when it comes to training? What are their advantages? What are their disadvantages? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? So it's not a one shoe that fits all sort of method. It needs to
Correct.
be more individualized, and that just doesn't happen. It's happening at a very slow rate. I do see the growth, but again, there's a lot to tap into, and a lot of people aren't doing
Exactly.
it. So that just interests me so much. Like, I am obsessed with that. Like, I actually prefer, and when I do these check-ins, so with my remote clients, we do weekly check-ins, and out of that half an hour, 45-minute call, I think we talk about their specific physically training program for about 10-15 minutes, but the rest of the session, we're always talking about how they're feeling physically. Sorry, how they're feeling, mentally, what made them feel good, where do they think they fell off the wagon? Why did they feel this way? What made them feel this way? What made them have a good workout? What made them have not a productive workout? Where can they be more? I'd say where can they be more optimal? Sort of stuff like that. It just makes
Right.
me
Right.
feel like, okay, I can be their guiding light, and I can make them change the way they think for the better. It just fascinates me.
Sure. This is amazing because you make sure to train and pay attention to your client's mental health as well.
No, thank you. It's just like, I
Yeah.
think they get obsessed with the physical aspect of fitness, and that's a big aspect of it. Obviously, we need to move every day. We need to strength train. We need to focus on our sleep. We need to focus on our nutrition. That's very important. So I'm not downsizing that. I think that's a big component. But we also need to understand that the mindset, in my opinion, is like the processor.
Right.
It's the chip. It's literally the brain.
Right.
The brain is in charge of everything. Your CNS, everything. And
Right.
if that's not screwed on right, it's just a matter of time before someone can fall off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is why a lot of people go through yo-yo dieting. They go through
Yeah.
yo-yo sort of like results where a year
Yeah.
they're like on it, and then
Yeah.
then the next 6 months they're off
Yeah.
training, and then it's just like, okay, why? I'm
Yeah.
interested in why is that happening.
Yeah.
So and it's also going to be another avenue for success where people can have not only long-term clients but also changing their lives, literally change their lives. So yeah, I'm just obsessed with that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I've heard this from you. Move every damn day.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you incorporate all these cardiovascular exercises along with your muscle building and strength training and make sure you retain your muscle? So,
Okay.
because there's so much myth out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, if you do too much cardio, you're going to lose your muscles.
Yeah. I mean, I think the myths
Yeah.
there. First, like my concept of moving every damn day, it just happened
Yeah.
very randomly. I just
Yeah.
started posting my runs, and then just went with the saying of move every damn day. Then it went on to
Right.
this abbreviation med, and then just became a lot easier for people to remember. The concept first behind that was just moving, right? We need to move.
Right.
We were meant to move. Humans were not meant to be sitting behind a desk for up to 8 to 9 hours a
Right.
day, 60 hours a week, staring at a screen. We thrive off movement, blood circulation. It also improves cognitive skills. It's just something like, I don't want to get into the science of it, but it's just
Right.
important that people need to move. And the concept of my med mindset is that it just encompasses any sort of movement. So it doesn't have to be a
Right.
run, it doesn't have to be a walk, it doesn't have to be a bike ride. It could be yoga, it could be just doing some sort of stretches, just something that allows you to get off your bed. Just get off
Right.
this static routine that you have. Get some sunlight, get out in nature.
Okay. Right.
Breathe the fucking fresh air. Stuff like
Right.
that. And under that, then yes, it comes a more like to talk about it more specifically. Then in terms of training, lifting, and everything, that comes under it as well. Now, the question is that about the myth of doing cardio and
Right.
losing gains. That's an old concept. A lot of science has supported the fact that everyone needs to do some sort of cardio.
Okay.
Cardio is literally cardiovascular
Right.
exercise, which is good for your heart. And
Right.
not only that, but there's a lot of science that actually has supported this theory that cardio has a direct link to your performance in the gym. It
Right.
makes a person more explosive, more powerful.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously, listen, in terms of muscle building, you can do absolutely zero cardio
Okay.
and go on to this strict strength program for years, and you're
Okay.
stimulating the muscle. But if you're not actually sleeping the way you're supposed to be sleeping, and if you're not
Okay.
eating the way you're supposed to be eating, you're not going to build muscle. So muscle in
Right.
the end, all is dwell down to how many calories you're eating, how much protein you're leveraging, and yeah. So yes, if someone is doing cardio and is lifting, it becomes a little harder depending on how much you're running and lifting to
Right.
build muscle. But yes, it is completely possible if you are eating in a surplus or you're eating according to what your body requires to build muscle and you're recovering. Same way, if a person is just doing strength building, the amount of muscle that you will build will depend on how much you're sleeping, how much
Right.
you're sort of eating, and what your recovery process is. If you're overtraining, if you're undertraining, all that comes into play. But in recent research, it has been supported by science and a lot of meta analysis that cardio directly can link to better performance in the gym and how everyone should be doing cardio. Forget the
Exactly.
endurance aspect of it, right? Also, think about it that cardiovascular health is so important for us. It's another big piece of the longevity game, and we all need to do cardio. Zone 2 cardio is, I think, one of the most underrated concepts where essentially a person is sticking to a modality which or a like let's say a person wants to row, he's a rower. A person
Right.
wants to bike, he or she is
Biker.
it's a
Yeah.
cyclist.
Right.
That zone 2 cardio can be applied to any sort of modality where you're doing an exercise at a conversational pace for about half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour,
Okay.
and then just incorporating that 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe
Right.
start off with once a week and then slowly build up to 2 times a week, then 3 times a week.
Okay.
That's the lowest hanging fruit that you can grab is something that you
Exactly.
should start off with. And the advantages will go a long way. This is Dr. Peter Attia, who's a longevity expert, talks about cardio so much, and he talks about the importance of zone 2,
Exactly. Yeah.
low stress, sort of low impact cardio, which someone can do even when they're 70, 80. You don't need to do a run. You can just walk. You can do the
Right.
elliptical. You can walk on a treadmill. You can just bike. And, there's so many different levels to this. And then people just need to understand that, just because one person you follow is a runner and is just talking about how important running is, doesn't downsize the importance of other sort of movements you can
Yeah.
do. So yeah, and building muscle just requires you to pay a little attention to the factors that are outside the circle of training and focusing on that
Right.
only, which is sleep, which is nutrition, which is hydration.
Yeah. I strongly believe in that too. How
Yes,
often do you do your cardio?
I mean, move every damn day, right? So I move every
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
I
So
move
you're
every
kind of
day.
like a hybrid athlete, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
something that I recently really it really resonated with me was this hybrid athlete sort of,
Right.
let's say, programming,
Right.
where I would split my workouts into two. One would be an AM cardio session, the other
Okay.
would be a PM lifting session, and
Right.
that again is helped me a lot. It's in line with my goals, my schedule, you
Yeah.
know. So I do about 3 to 4 runs a week, and the rest of the days, the rest of the 3 days, I'm walking. But again, my
Right.
cardio right now isn't. I'm not training to be a marathon runner. I just love cardio. I do shift my training specifically. It's more targeted towards one form more than the other. So right now I'm concentrating more on my lifting and just doing three,
Right.
four zone two cardio sessions. And then in the winter, when the weather is better, then I'll focus more on my running and then maybe getting
Right.
more long distance and then dialing it a little back down in my lifting. But
Got
again,
it.
never negating either one. It will always be focus driven, and I will never concentrate on one sort of, let's say, sort of exercise 100% and completely ignore the other aspect, right?
Right.
So yeah, and am I saying everyone should do this? Run three,
Right.
4 times a week and lift three, 4 times a week and then walk the other 3 days? No. I'd
Right.
say pick a schedule which is aligned with your routine, which you can follow consistently and can adhere to, and that will actually pave the way for you to maybe slowly increase your output right now. So if I say,
True.
hey, listen, start with 3 runs a week and 3 lifting sessions, and the person is working 12-hour shifts somewhere, that's not
Right.
that's not fair on them, right? So I would say
Exactly. Yeah.
maybe do a couple of cardio sessions according to your schedule, do a couple of sessions according to your schedule, and then take it from there. Whether that's one cardio session a week, doesn't matter. Whatever fits your schedule is the most important thing, and then take it from there. There's not one program one can follow. It's how you can incorporate it in your lifestyle and then slowly build on that and add
Right.
more volume to it over the next few weeks, months, years, or whatever.
Right. Right. That's so awesome. All the videos that you post on Instagram are so fucking awesome. How do you come up with so many permutation and combinations?
I don't know. I just, like I said, I don't think about it. I
Right.
just, I just do my training. I post them.
Okay.
Obviously, I do some sort of research in terms of I do a lot of Q&A. So a lot of times
Right.
people ask me the same sort of level of questions. If someone says, "Hey, I need a routine. Like, what do you do for your legs?" I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of demand for people wanting to know how to train their lower body. So then I'll pick a theme like that. So yeah. Other than that, I just wing it. I think everyone should just wing it, to be quite honest. I think we're wrapped around the idea of too much of perfection. Obviously, I don't do gimmicks. I don't do, hey, you want to lose fat? Try this fat burning exercise. I don't do that. I just sort of like stick to my level of being authentic, which is cutting the bullshit,
Right.
giving people what the actual science says, making sure that they're following a more sustainable sort of, let's say, mindset. And my sort of videos are just, aligned with that. It's
Right.
all part of one cohesive unit. It doesn't waver. My persona online matches my persona when you meet me. I'm just going to be as authentic as possible. If someone says, I don't think I don't dive into the personality that your online personality needs to be different than all that fucking shit. I don't do that.
Right.
I'm one person and I just follow
Yeah.
through with that on everything that I post, whether it's a training video, whether it's an educational video, whether it's a story, whatever the fuck it is. I
Right.
just follow what's real to me, and people resonate with that, and people who don't resonate with it, that's fine. That's their opinion, and I don't expect them to, but I'm always going
Right.
to follow what I feel is right. And I don't like following trends. I look at
Right.
patterns. I look at what the consumer is curious about, what they want to know. I incorporate that and follow it up with my own sort of vibe, my own sort of energy. And honestly, I think whatever it is, it works. And the kind of reaction I get is always heartwarming. I'm honored and blessed. Whether it's helping one person or 10 people or whatever, I don't care. I do it. I'm not getting paid to post these videos. I barely do any
Right.
sponsorships.
Right.
That's a whole other issue that I have. I don't want to dive into it right now, but I
Yeah.
don't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
Again, not sort of like, insulting people
Right.
or who sort of like downgrading people who do that. That's their thing, and more power to them. It doesn't resonate with my sort of, let's say, mindset, and I don't want to do it. um so yeah, I think again, the answer to your question is I don't really think about
Yeah,
it. I just be authentic. And once you're authentic, the content follows through. It flows through.
exactly.
It's and also one thing I've realized with my move every damn day is when I'm walking or running, I actually get inspired, and my brain starts to get so wired up, and all these different ideas come to my head randomly. So that's where I actually get most of my ideas, when I'm clear headed.
Mhm.
And I'm
Right,
clear headed when I'm running or when I'm in the
right,
gym. That's where actually I'm thinking about a lot of things. So
right,
that's where actually where my most of my quote unquote best work comes into play. Yeah, so
right.
that's what I actually prefer doing. So if I'm feeling like I'm hitting
Yeah,
a block, a writer's block, mentor's block, a
right,
content creator block, I go for a walk and things just pop in. Whether that's something substantial, whether that's something that comes to my head and I actually don't follow through, ideas do come. So what I do is, if I have my phone on me, because sometimes I run without my phone, but if I am walking or running with my phone, I'll just open my notes app and I'll just write it down, whatever it is. This idea popped in my head. Maybe talk about this in your next video, or post
right.
about this in your next video. So yeah, I don't, I don't look at other people as inspiration. I admire their work, and I think honestly, authentic work needs to come from within. I don't like being a dick rider, like a lot of people do
Yeah,
that. I don't like doing that.
exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's how it just comes through all the time.
that's so. Yeah, that's so awesome, man. I hope you stay this authentic forever.
Thank you. I'll try my best.
So there is a debate between using high reps with lower weights and vice versa in order to like gain muscle or for any other goals.
Yeah.
What is your take on this? Let's say there's a client coming in and he's asking you to put him into this bodybuilding process. He wants to build muscle.
Yeah.
Which one would you prefer out of these two?
I mean, my preference has very little to
Yeah,
do with what the client wants, right? So if a client
yeah,
has
yeah.
some sort of a preference, I'll ask them why and what their goal is. That's the most important thing, right? Without that,
Right,
then your programming goes to shit.
right,
Um, if you ask me what the science is when it comes to, let's say, the debate using high reps with lower weights and vice versa, it all goes
right,
down to stimulus, right? So
right,
if you are, let's say, okay, let's take a exercise like a back squat. That's a very taxing exercise, right?
right,
It's a
right.
compound exercise. You're basically, pretty much working your quads, hamstrings, glutes to a certain degree, everything, right?
True, true.
Now,
Yeah.
I would say if a person wants to maximize their output, being it being a very taxing exercise, what's better, me telling you to do 20 reps of this brutal exercise and
Right,
getting a stimulus at a lighter load? Because let's say if a person who's strong as fuck and
right,
wants to do let's say a high rep scheme of back squats, but I know this person's strong, and probably to get a stimulus, he or she would probably have to do 20 reps at this certain weight in order to feel that stimulus. It's A, time wasting, B, high volume, C, a little maybe more chance of the technique breaking down. I would say then maybe for a compound exercise to get the best result, you choose lower weights. You choose lower reps at a higher weight to get that stimulus, right?
right, right,
Where let's say he or she is going for 5 to 6 reps, your technique's on point, you'll still feel that stimulus at the sixth rep and you're not wasting time you
right.
know that is what I would advise the individual. And also
Right.
obviously when it comes to, let's say, isolation exercises, when the stimulus, you do need to go for a higher rep scheme to feel that sort of stimulus.
Okay.
That's sort of like 1 or 2 reps in reserve, sort of like, let's say, sort of like rep scheme. I would say then that's fine. Maybe take a exercise like a lateral raise or a bicep curl or a calf
Okay.
raise or a quad extension to failure, or actually somewhat close to failure, like an RPE 8 or
Right.
9, that would
Yeah.
be a lot more effective,
Right.
because A, the isolation exercise won't leave you that much in pain post
Right. Yeah.
exercise, and less chance of injury, right? Because it's
Right.
not a complicated move. Your technique, even if it does break down, let's be honest, if your technique's breaking down on a bicep curl, the exercise can be less optimal productive, but the chance of injury is less compared
Right.
to, let's say, take a deadlift, for example, and I say do 20 reps, there's a chance that maybe after the 10th rep mark, your form's going to break down and there might be a chance of an
Right.
injury, right?
Yes, yes.
So when it comes to that, building muscle just requires stimulus. We can navigate that stimulus by advising the client to do certain sort of, like, let's say, rep schemes, considering the exercises, but it all comes down to stimulus, right?
Understood. Yeah.
And a progressive overload with
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
nutritional sort of, let's say, focus. So yeah,
Right.
that's how it is. There's no advantage that high rep has over low rep in terms of
Right.
muscle building if the stimulus is the same. But yes,
Right.
if you do a deep dive, then there is going to be some sort of difference between, let's say, how your body is going to recover, perform, execute. 100%.
Right. Understood. So you're more often training to failure or almost to failure, right?
Just under almost to failure. It doesn't have to be all the time. I would
Right.
choose one compound exercise, take it to an RPE 8, 9, and then the rest
Okay.
of the exercises, take it to an RPE 7, 8, where you're
Okay.
training close to failure, get more of the hypertrophy,
Right.
stimulate the muscle, get the blood circulation, get that
Right.
pump. Because if you're taking every exercise to failure, then
Right.
again, depending on, let's say, obviously the training history that this client has,
Right.
what level they're at, whether they're beginner, intermediate, advanced. That also, by the way, comes into play.
Right.
So again, there's a lot of consideration one needs to take.
Understood. Yeah.
So that's why I truly believe it needs to be more individualized when it comes to
Correct.
actually seeing the results of an effective training program.
Exactly. Yeah. I truly believe in that as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the hypertrophy. We spoke about hitting plateaus. From your expertise, can you share some strategies for breaking these plateaus and keep the muscle building process dynamic and more engaging?
I mean, the thing is, plateau is going to happen regardless, right?
Okay.
It's about manifesting it and sort of navigating it. I would say for a person who's at a plateau, and let's say that
Right.
person's getting a little disheartened,
Exactly.
you just need to firstly make sure that individual knows that we all have a genetic limit. We can't push that genetic limit naturally. And I would never advise anyone to do, unless you're a competitor and unless your life depends on you being a competitor on stage or even some sort of performance competitor, I would never advise anyone to do steroids, right?
Right. Right.
It,
Yeah.
it's so counterproductive to my sort of overall message of longevity. It's a
Right.
direct hit to longevity. You see this in recent news with all these professional bodybuilders dying because of them abusing steroids. you know
Right.
so for a person who feels like they've hit a plateau, the first thing I would say, listen, it's normal, but what we can do is we can sort of change their exercise or their program just to make it a little more fun. A lot of people,
Okay.
they need to understand that training needs to be fun as well. Unless,
True.
again, this is for the novice lifter, this is for the inexperienced lifter, this is for the average person who just wants to look good and make it more of a long-term thing. We can play around with it, maybe sort of like change up their exercises, maybe delve into some sort of, let's say, I would say a 30-minute exercise where they're just doing back-to-back supersets. So them going through something different will motivate them to maybe continue on training and not focus on them hitting a plateau, because
Right.
now their body is going through something different. Am I saying changing up the routine is going to promise results, actual results in breaking plateaus? Probably not, because like I said, we all have a genetic limit. If this person, by the way, can I just say to all the listeners, whoever wants to know this, hitting a genetic limit also takes years. Okay.
True. Yeah.
And a lot of people think they've hit a limit, but unless I know this client's history and
Right.
unless I've trained this client from day one, I can't really tell if they've hit a limit, but they need to tell me that. So more often than not, they haven't hit their limit, right? It
Right.
takes years. I think I've hit my limit now because I've been lifting for about 15 years consistently, and
Wow.
I know I've
That's
hit
great.
my limit. Am I going to make
Yeah.
small gains somewhere? Probably. I probably could if I make it very individualized. But at the same time, a lot of these lifters and a lot of these people at the gym, they haven't hit their limit. you know.
Right.
So if a person truly has reached their the genetic limit and have hit a plateau, and let's say they've been training for years and actually can see their numbers sort of, let's say, not declining but just being constant, then, just to make them feel a little better, get their mind off it, I would make them go through this sort of like a phase where I'm like, okay, listen, we've trained hard, let's make
Right.
training fun. Let's take some outside sport and let's take it to another sort of location, or let's do some sort of supersets. Let's start doing some sort of plyometrics, some explosive movement. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's just have fun, you know.
Right.
Obviously the fundamental lifting rules still get applied here and there, but changing it up,
Yeah.
it makes it more fun. It makes the client want to do it longer, and
More often.
then we can always get back to the regular sort of program. So yeah, I think it's fine. I have done this myself. Like, I've gone through different modalities, strict bodybuilding, then I was doing
Yeah.
CrossFit. Now after CrossFit, I started doing functional bodybuilding, and
Right.
now I'm doing a hybrid lifestyle. So again, am I saying that this hybrid lifestyle of mine is way better than my actual quote unquote bodybuilding program? No, I did make a lot of gains during my
Right.
previous sort of program, but this is making it more fun. I'm looking forward to training. I'm making it more sustainable. I'm making it more long term. Just because
Exactly.
I'm a coach doesn't mean I don't get demotivated. I get demotivated all the time. It gets boring for me sometimes. So that's why I need to add in a little bit of modality here and there, make it fun. Let's say I want to go to the gym, and or actually I don't want to go to the gym, but I still want to lift. Then I'll just take a couple of dumbbells. I'll just do some sort of like 30-minute workout in my garden, get some sunshine, breathe in some
Right.
fresh air. That sort of plateau can also be a mental plateau, and this helps with that. There's absolutely, and anyone who says this is fucking lying. There's nothing you can do about a physical plateau. It happens. It's
Right.
normal, you know. So we just have to navigate it, work around it, and make it more fun.
Exactly. I think when you make it more fun, you'll start enjoy it a little bit more, and then
Yes,
you'll be looking forward to go to a gym, or you'll be
100%,
looking forward to go for a run or
100%,
for a bike. Exactly. Yeah.
100%. People need to understand that.
Yeah. Exactly. How do you keep yourself updated with the latest advancements and the research in strength and conditioning?
I mean, it's quite easy now. There's so much information online. Everything that you see, whether it's on Instagram, Google, TikTok, whatever, information is there's no there is no limit to the information. There might be a
Right.
limit to your physical gains, but there's no limit to information. Um, but does that mean that all information is good? No, you got to cut the bullshit through, right?
Right.
You got to kind of like differentiate between the actual science and the sort of gimmicky sort of like product endorsing bullshit. So I just go through the data. I have a couple of, let's say, study research that I've prescribed to, which go through the actual data, the meta-analysis, where they take participants and go through randomized, controlled tests,
Right.
trials. That's where the science actually lies, and there's this saying that the data needs to trump your feelings, your
Right.
opinions. Everyone has opinions, but if I, for example, say that I don't like apple and I think apples are bad for you because, let's say, I had an episode with an apple, let's just say that,
Right.
does
Right.
that make it true? No, that's my opinion, right? I can't tell people to stop having apples because I had a bad experience. An apple is a
Exactly.
very nutritious treat. It's nature's sweet. It's amazing for everyone to thrive on. But my opinion can't really negate the benefits of what the science say. So what I do is I just read up on the research, proven research. I'm very much a big believer of science, and that's what I do. I read up on the research, and that's how I try to like post about it. I try to spread the information, what the research says. And if people want to agree with it, that's fine. That's up to them. If they don't want to do it, that's also fine. That's up to them. But it's out there, right? And that's
Right.
what I do. And the research is and I'm a big believer of constant evolution and how a person should keep learning. and that's what I do. I study, and I sort of like get updated or stay up to date with any sort of, let's say, if there have been any advancements in let's say my field or even fields related to my field, and yeah, that's what I do. It's amazing. It's the
Yeah,
science doesn't lie. It's just
exactly.
it's the truth, right?
There's never an end to learning, right?
Never an end. There's no limit to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your experience, what are the most common mistakes and misconceptions that people have about strength training? And like, how do you address them?
I mean, I don't know if there are misconceptions that much anymore. I guess a lot of people, not being sexist, but people in the past, like
Correct.
female clients, would say that, oh, if they do too much of strength, they get
Right.
bulky, which isn't true
Exactly.
because it takes so many years to actually build muscle. And if that was the case, if someone does exercise for 4 weeks and they build muscle, then everyone would be jacked, right?
Right.
So I
Right.
think one of
Yeah.
the few good things about the industry is that people are now understanding. More and more people are getting into strength. More and more people are realizing the importance of lifting. So I think I don't see any sort of, let's say, misconceptions that are coming into play. Yes, there have been some sort of misconceptions in terms of, oh, so banded workouts are going to be better for your overall muscle building phase, which completely has no science
Right.
back to it. There's no scientific reason why someone thinks a banded workouts, just because it looks all gimmicky and a person who is fit is doing it, and promises that they're going to build muscle on it, is actually the case. So I don't think there are common mistakes or misconceptions about strength training. I do believe people, they are impressed by gimmicks.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who mislead others, so that's
That's
another
true.
issue. And
Especially so many through social media, right?
100%.
Yeah.
There's so many influences,
Yeah.
which is why I did this poll,
Yeah.
because if I've reached a certain aesthetic level, and if I tell
Right.
people that, hey, listen, if I take my shirt off and I'm endorsing a product, no
Yeah.
matter what the product is, no matter what ingredient it is, and if I only
Right.
post a tagline that says, this product helped me burn fat, are you going to buy it? They say
Yeah.
yes, because they look at the image and
Right.
they don't look at what the actual
Exactly. Yeah.
the product is. They don't care about it. So that's why a lot of these influencers and a lot of these scammers, I would say, are misleading
Exactly.
people by just posting a edited picture most of the time and
Okay.
endorsing something that actually isn't true. So a lot of people, they thrive on it. So that is one misconception I have about people when it comes to training, because they want to take the easy way out, which is another issue, the easy way out. They're looking for shortcuts. So a person might believe in strength training, they might believe in the concept of lifting and building muscle, but they want the easy way out. When there is
Right.
no easy way out, they're searching for it. They
Yeah.
don't believe you when you say there's no easy way out. It is
Exactly.
the day in, day out effort that will give you the biggest result, but they don't want that. They want something fast. They want something at the
Yeah.
snap of their fingers. So in terms of the method of strength training, I think people have come a long way. In terms of applying it, I think people need to learn a lot about that. That's
Exactly.
what I
Yeah.
truly believe. And I think a lot of people need to sort of understand and cut the bullshit. And if they
Right.
can't, then that's where I actually take more ownership in sort of
Exactly.
posting more information about it. And I know a lot of other people are doing that as well. Like, I know a lot of people, a lot of coaches and trainers who I respect are doing the same thing. They are
Right.
not only informing people, but they're calling out others who are misleading these people for
Right.
their own profit, because at the end of the day they all want to make a buck, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that doesn't sit right with me. I'm
Yeah.
not that I'm saying that having some sort of like monetary success is not important to me. It is important, for sure it is, but that's not
Right.
my driving factor. I want to change people's lives, and
Exactly.
this is something that I think is going to be a big issue. How
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
just want to start believing the hype. They want to start believing the gimmicks. They want to start believing the shortcuts. There's no shortcut. I'm sorry to say, there's no
Exactly.
shortcut in life when it comes to anything. Why does health and fitness have to follow that as well? That's bullshit.
Yeah. True. Whatever comes in shortcut, I think just goes away from you in that fast pace, in that
Yeah.
short span of time.
Yeah, it's always like there's another saying like choose the
Yeah,
hard right over the easy simple. You know,
exactly. So
there's
true.
always going to be some sort of, I don't know, like it. There's a certain component to taking the harder route, not just mentally and making you a stronger person, but more often
Right.
than not, that harder route will lead you to success. You know, it's that
Ex-
the road less traveled sort of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what I truly believe in terms of not the concept of strength training, but the ideology of how fast one should get results because they just lack the patience. I think that's the biggest problem people have right now.
Completely agree with you. So there's a saying that you have to be lucky to find a good coach. So I truly feel all of your clients are so lucky to have a coach like you.
Thank you, thank you. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're lucky or not, but I try to do my best.
Yeah.
There will be days where like obviously my productivity isn't as
Yeah.
much, and I'm having an off day or whatever. But
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I try to like just try to inform people as much as I can, try to be
Exactly.
authentic as much as I can. So I appreciate you saying that, though.
Absolutely, because I know I can feel it too. You are
Thank
the owner and the head coach of Impulse, and you are also the co-owner of Virtualytics, right? So, what's your next goal from here?
Next goal. Well, opening sort of a more of a individualized one-on-one training studio. I want to do that. Impulse is more group training, and
Group.
I work with this amazing gym called Core, CORE,
Okay.
in Karachi, Pakistan. So we have a great relationship. But in the future, I do want to open a separate one-on-one or maybe semi-private training, something very small, something very like, let's say, individualized, as a passion project of mine. Like I love that, where
Okay.
someone can get comfortable in getting trained and not worried about others, because I do believe that we do suffer from some sort of anxiety levels when we are around people who are lifting. A lot of people like a comfortable environment, so that's something I want to do. Secondly, getting more into, I would say, what you're doing. Like I love podcasts. Like I'm
Great.
a big fan of podcasts, listening to podcasts, trying to like delve into the minds of people and speakers who come on these episodes, and wanting to
Right.
host one myself. So that's something I really want to get into. That's another passion project of mine. And then yeah, just spreading the word as much as I can about health and fitness. There are other aspects to this for sure. You know,
Right.
um, but yeah, these two are like my biggest things that I want to focus on, and hopefully, inshallah, in the
Yeah.
future, I can actually execute them.
Yeah. I wish you all the best for that too, and I hope
Thank you, man.
you achieve huge success in that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me to be a guest. And the fact that you're also
Yeah.
doing a podcast, something that you enjoy doing, it's a
Yeah.
passion project for yours. My advice is, not that I have any experience in this, from the people I do follow who have found success,
Yeah.
is just a constant daily work,
Sure.
uploading episodes, getting people, inviting more people, or just creating concepts yourself, creating content yourself, and just uploading more episodes.
Right.
The ripple effect only happens with consistency. If
Right.
anyone wants to remember something, it's about the constant sort of, let's say, uploading, the constant reminder. It's the reaffirmation. So I truly believe that's going to be the biggest asset. And I hope you keep doing this, man. Like I truly believe in someone who's following their passion, that if they're authentic, they're going to find success. So I wish you the success in this venture of yours as well.
Sure. Thank you so much. That was so nice of you. Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'm extremely fascinated about sports, nutrition, fitness. This is something I love. And then I was like, I want to try podcast. I want to educate as many people as I can. Even if I change the mindset of one person, that's like success for me.
100%.
So yeah, I want to
It
like
starts
educate
with one step,
everyone.
right?
Exactly. So I want to educate everyone about the mistakes that I did, things that worked out for me, and then like you said, speak with others, dive into their mindset, open it up, and help the audience too.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
that's amazing. I think, and the more authentic you are, the more people can relate
right,
to you, more people
exactly.
would want to relate with you, and then also then start to follow your journey. And I think I truly believe in that. I think it's that
Sure.
sort of power that we need to tap into. And yeah, that's amazing.
100%. Yeah, thank you. Well, it was so wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time and coming on to my show as a guest. I personally learned so much, and it was such a great conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope the message is received, and I hope a lot of people can resonate with it. And yeah, everyone just move every damn day. That's it. That's all you
Exactly.
need.
Move every damn day. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please leave a review from wherever you're streaming from. Share my show with your friends. I'll continue to do my best. And thank you for giving me a chance to entertain you. Thank you for tuning in to the Activar podcast. And until next time, be ambitious, exercise every single day, eat nutrient dense foods, and stay active.